Well, the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry has criticised the EFF's planned shutdown, saying it will have a negative impact on the economy. I'm joined now by Prasheen Maharaj, President of the Durban Chamber. Prasheen, thank you so much for your time this evening. From your perspective, I know that you're obviously in contact with your members. How many of them are planning to close on Monday purely as a precaution?
Good evening, Sally. Good evening to the listeners. Obviously, for us, we've lost many days over the last couple of years, not only through COVID, through flooding, looting, rioting, etc. So we can ill afford as a business to lose yet another trading day. So our members don't actually want to close down. But obviously, the wounds and scars of the 2021 unrest are still fresh in their minds. And obviously, there's been a very populist rhetoric coming from the EFF around the proposed shutdown on the 20th of March. So they are scared. But I think we have been given enough notice and engaged the various stakeholders. And I think business feel relatively confident they can open again on Monday.
All right. So you're not hearing any reports of anyone closing just in case?
Well, there are the exceptions rather than the rules. And so we're not seeing mass closures. As I said, Sally, we can ill afford to close. There's also been some recent statements by the president of the EFF, Mr. Malema, saying that, you know what, we are not saying you must close, but all we're saying, we are making you aware that there could be incidences of looting or other violence. So it's in your best interest to close. But he's not saying we should close. So business is not saying the EFF said we must close and close. We are actually wanting to remain open.
We've heard a lot of assurances from the president, from the defense minister, from the police minister, saying, look, we've got a plan. A lot of people, and even Julius Malema himself said, oh, you thought July 2021 was bad. That's Mickey Mouse compared to what's going to happen on Monday, which I would imagine must have particularly upset people in KwaZulu-Natal, where you bore the brunt of that July unrest. But in terms of the way government and the security forces and the security cluster is dealing with these threats, compared to the threats that we did hear about in the run-up to July 2021, would you say that government has taken a much more serious approach this time around?
Yes, I think we've definitely learned our lessons. People didn't take the threats emanating from the July 2021 unrest very seriously. They just thought there was gossip, rumors, etc., etc. Julius Malema said on the 19th of January, we will have a national shutdown on the 20th of March. He gave 2 months' notice, and I think people take him very seriously because we've seen the power of the EFF to draw crowds, especially amongst the most vulnerable in our society who have nothing to lose. So even today, when we engaged the mayor, he said, we're not waiting for Monday to make contingency plans. Operations have been in effect for a few weeks now. We also engaged the provincial police commissioner, General Nkonazi, today, and he also gave us the assurances. As much as we do not have enough police on the ground, but they have been entering into discussions with the private security companies to ensure that they work together as public and private sector in a collaborative manner and share information to avoid what happened in 2021. Because the wounds are still open. Many people lost their lives unnecessarily. Yes, business suffered, but the lives lost for us is more important.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very terrible time. Just talk to me about some of those contingency plans, if you're able to share the details. I mean, we know that the army stands ready, but in terms of what's going to be happening in the sort of the retail areas around Durban and surrounds, in the areas where business is done, what are some of the plans?
I think both the Metro Police, the SAPS and the army would not give too much detail for obvious reasons, because we don't want people to be able to make contingency measures against the contingency measures. So they gave us the highest levels of assurance that there will be high visibility of both the Metro Police, the SAPS, the Army, and the private sector security guards will be on high alert. They said people must feel safe to go to work. They must feel safe to open their businesses. And I think, you know what, we must be wary. We cannot be reckless or negligent about these things. But come Monday, I think it will be business as usual.
And you've mentioned it twice now, and you've spoken about the wounds, and as you said, obviously it was devastating for business, but most devastating was the violence and the loss of life. And I would have expected, given the trauma of what your area went through, that you would have been more cautious and more inclined to close your shops and businesses. But it seems, in fact, the opposite, because we are hearing here in Johannesburg of quite a number, and these are anecdotal mentions, but a number of places of business just deciding to shut up shop just in case. That doesn't seem to be the same energy in Durban, though.
No, there are fears, obviously, Sally, and I think it's normal human nature to be fearful. But remember, we're coming into a long weekend. So there's a lot of holiday, people taking off on the Monday. So Durban is a very vibrant local tourist destination. And you must recall that we had E. coli issues on our beaches during December. So people are looking for long weekends, and there are numerous long weekends coming up during the month of March and April. So businesses are really looking to recover the losses that they suffered in December to make it up during these long weekends that we have in Durban. Ultimately, as I said, business is hanging by thread in Durban. Our infrastructure is still not up to shape. So at every single opportunity we can get to trade, we will trade. The most important thing, I think as a nation, as a city, we cannot afford to be intimidated anymore, because we have to show resilience. And we have to show that we actually care for our employees to ensure that we open our businesses and give them a day's wages, because they need that one day's wages to make the grocery bill at the end of that day or end of that week.
The fact that Santaco, which represent about 70% of the taxis on the road, is not going to be halting their taxis, is that encouraging as well for you?
That's most encouraging. This shows that we've reached a certain level of maturity in our democracy, and that we all can come from different political beliefs, and we have different political cultures and approaches, but still respect each other. So we're hoping that same level of respect that the EFF has accorded to Santaco, to the essential services, they will accord that same level of respect to businesses that remain open during Monday. And for me, it's a maturing of democracy, which is very, very encouraging. Because for us as investors, what we need is stability, predictability, and transparency. Yes, we know we're coming to this, we're 1 year away from elections, so we'll see all kinds of posturing and all kinds of platforms being used to fight for the April 2024 elections. But for as long as it's done in a mature and respectful way, we are happy.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us this evening, and we wish you good trading on Monday. Prasheen Maharaj, President of the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry, saying that they simply cannot afford to lose a day's work, neither can their staff, and most businesses are going to stay open on Monday.